payments journal. You will notice in the upper right-hand corner is page 10. Now, typically what is going to happen is every month you're going to have a new page for a journal. And typically what's not going to happen, like when we went through Enrico Sanchez, how many journal pages did we use in Enrico Sanchez? 3 plus adjusting and closing entries, so 4. So for 1 month, they used 3 journal pages. But now what's going to happen with our special journals is we're going to have 1 purchases journal for October, and at the end of October, then we're going to total it up, and then we'll get a new one for the next month. Purchases journals should not get filled up over a month because there shouldn't be too much that you're going to be buying because that's going to be all merchandise you're receiving. Typically, one that might be used more than once, need to use more than 1 pages would be maybe your cash payments because you have to write checks out to pay bills. But when we look at our cash payments journal, does it look much different than our journal from before?
Yeah.
Different special columns, would you agree? But when we start on the left-hand side, we have date, and then it says account title, but instead of source document, what does it say? Check number. So do you think we need to write C110 anymore?
No.
We could probably just write 110, right? Just 110 because it already says check number. And then we have a column for post reference, but we're going to do a whole different chapter just on posting again. And then we have our general debit and general credit. So things that don't fit into our special column are going to go in general debit and general credit. But now look at our special columns. We have a new classification account called our cost of merchandise. And our cost of merchandise sold is a classification that has a debit normal balance, and we are going to be using the account purchases. Okay? Purchases is when we buy merchandise that we're going to turn around and sell to our customers. Purchases has a debit account balance. We have 2 other accounts under purchases called purchases discount and purchases returns and allowances. Those are contra accounts to our purchases, just like drawing was to owner's equity. Drawing had a credit normal balance, or excuse me, capital had a credit normal balance and drawing had a debit. It's where we kept track of things that took away from the capital. So now purchases has a debit normal balance. So what do you think purchases discount would have? Credit, because we use it to keep track of things that are taken away from purchases. Same thing for purchases, returns, and allowances. It's a contra account to our controlling account of purchases, so therefore we are going to have a credit balance on those. So we have a column there that says accounts payable debit, and we also have purchases, discount credit, and cash credit. Now, I talked about before how we have subsidiary ledgers, and I don't need to write accounts payable Don's Quality Market anymore. Instead of writing that word, accounts payable, I'm going to put it in the column that says accounts payable. Do you see that column there? So this is one of the things that happens most frequently with this chapter. You are so used to saying accounts payable, Don's Quality Market, and then throwing it in the general column. If you do that in this chapter, you're going to lose a bajillion points. And that's a lot to start the semester, and I don't want you to lose a bajillion points. It is. We'll recover, but I don't want you to lose those points. So I need you to think, instead of writing the words accounts payable, I need to use the column accounts payable. Okay? And that's going to help us when we go to posting for the next chapter. And then I have a purchases discount credit. And then notice only 1 cash column, because the only time I use this journal is when I do what? Pay cash. So you have to look for a transaction that has a source document of a C, and then you know it's going to go in your cash payments journal. So let's go ahead and take a look at our directions. They read cash payments journals for Franklin Lumber is given below. I'm going to guide you through the following example. Using the current year, journalize these transactions on page 10 of the cash payments journal. The checks are used as source documents are abbreviated as C. So the first transaction, October 1st, paid cash for telephone bill, $85, C, $321. So we know it's October. Let's get that on there. The date is the 1st. What's my account title? Nice. Good one up there. Utilities expense. Notice you also have utilities payable. Is that going to be the right one? Payable means that you owe it, and in fact, we're actually paying it right now. So make sure you use utilities expense, and that's going to be $321. What columns? Excellent, Lexi. General, debit, and cash credit. I was too happy with my enters. Is that any different than what we did before? Exactly the same. Would you agree? Okay, number 7, paid cash for office supplies, $52, C322. Put the date of the 7th. What's my account title? Supplies office. Not supplies expense. Don't use that. We only use supplies expense as our adjusting entries. Now, also notice, I had check number 321. The next line below it should be 322. You should not have any gaps in your numbers for check numbers. Marcus, what columns am I using? Shazam! That's awesome. So far, transaction 1 and transaction 2, you're like, great, Mrs. Grassel, I know how to do this. Okay. October 11th. That one's a little bit different. Would you agree? When I read that, it says paid cash to GMT Hardware for merchandise with a list price of $800 less a 60% trade discount, C323. What the hecka? What do we think that means? Anyone read? Mrs. Gressel, I would have loved to have read. Let's break it down. What do we know happens with this transaction? What are we getting? Anyone? Yeah, what is that? Stuff to sell. And do you remember yesterday I said anytime we get stuff to sell, what account are we affecting? Might be worth candy. Got your attention now because I said candy. Anytime that we buy stuff that we're going to sell, what account do we affect? Ah! Yes. I don't care. There's lots of different accounts there. There's also an account called merchandise inventory, but that's wrong. 1. So anytime we buy stuff that we're going to turn around and sell, the account that we are affecting has to be purchases. So the account purchases is a cost account that has what for normal balance? I just said it. Who said it? Was it Lexi? I can be bribed, you guys, with chocolate. You're welcome. So purchases has a debit balance, okay? So for this transaction, it reads that we are buying merchandise. It gives us the name of the business, so the first thing you want to do is what? Put the name of that business in there because they gave it to you. Does it really matter who they're buying it from? Because what are we paying them with? Cash. The only time we concern ourselves with the name of the business is when we buy on an account. Are we buying on an account? No. So the fact that they tell us it's GMT Hardware is totally out of the picture. It doesn't matter. Okay? So we are buying merchandise. We associate the word merchandise with, give it to me, Jordan, merchandise equals? Purchases. Don't forget that. Merchandise purchases. Okay, so we want to keep those two together. Now, the other confusing part of this statement is it says that we have a list price of $800 less a 60% trade discount. Basically, GMT Hardware and I have an agreement. Instead of me paying $800, I get it on sale. Would you agree? So, do I have to record my merchandise at the cost of $800, or do I get to record at the cost of what I get it for? What I get it for, okay? So when you go and buy jeans at Kohl's and they have it on sale, shocker, because they always do, you don't put in your checkbook, oh, it really would have been $70, but I only paid $40. You only put it in for the $40, okay? So you are going to need to calculate this discount. You have to do math. They don't give you the answer. So it is 60% off. There's 2 ways you can calculate this. I can take 800 times 60%, and then I have to subtract that from 800. Does that make sense? Or I can take 800 times 40, and that's my answer. Why does that work? This is a little math. 60 plus 40 equals 100. So instead of me multiplying it by 60 and then subtracting that from the total amount of the item, I know I only have to pay 40%. So when we get a discount, it tells you how much you get off, but we really want to record it by how much we have to pay. So if I take 800 times 40%, what is my answer? 320? So what am I getting, Jordan? Jordan, what am I getting? I'm calling you on purpose because what are we doing? What's your word that you gave me and I gave you candy?
Yeah, you gave me candy once.
Purchases. So I am getting merchandise, and merchandise goes with purchases, okay? Because I am getting more product to sell. The date is going to be the 11th. My account title is going to be purchases. It is check 323. I know that I'm paying cash out 320. I said the wrong amount. Cash has to be credited 320. Where else does it go? It is general debit. Because it has nothing to do with accounts payable, because I did not buy an account from GMT Hardware. They gave you the name of the business to mess with your head. I like it when they do that. But truly, I'm debiting purchases and I'm crediting cash. I have more items that I'm going to turn around and sell. Okay, now the 17th, this one is much different. Paid cash and account to West Supply covering purchase invoice 199 for $3,420, less a 2% discount, C324. Okay. So, let me explain this one. Oh, I will. I like to. So in my business, previously, I had bought something from Michelle. And Michelle and I, we have a good working relationship, and she says, Mrs. Grassel, you don't need to pay me right away. You can pay me 30 days from now. And I said, great. So I bought something on account from her. Would you agree? We've done that. Now, Michelle and I, we have such a great working relationship. She says, Mrs. Grassel, if you pay within the next 10 days, I will give you 2% off. So instead of it being that total bill, I can get the same merchandise for a little bit less. Why would Michelle do that?
She can have her money right away.
Yes. And why would I pay within those 10 days? Exactly. But here's the thing. When I bought the items, did I know if I was going to pay within those 10 days? Not necessarily. It could be my practice to try to do that, but if something comes up and I don't make it. So when I bought it, how much did I put on my books that I owe Michelle? Which is $3,420. Would you agree? So I have in my accounts payable, Michelle Wininger, I owe her $3,420. I know I don't have to pay her all of that, so I am getting a purchases discount. Okay, she is going through and saying, you don't have to pay right away. You pay right away, I'll give you a discount. So, but in accounts payable, how much does it say I owe her? $34.20. But I'm not going to pay cash at $34.20, so my account is going to be the date, and then it's going to be the name of my business, and my example here would be Michelle Wininger, check number. Accounts payable is going to be $3,420. 2% of that is going to go in purchases discount, and then you have accounts payable minus purchases discount gives you your cash. Okay, so let's rock and roll that. And this is where we get into some sense. So how do we do the math? I'm going to take 3,420, and I'm going to times that by 0.2%, or 2%, 0.02, which gives me $68.40. Okay, so I have 3,420 not in the general column, not in the general column, in accounts payable. Purchases discount is going to go here for $68.40. And then I'm going to take, in my calculator, take 3,420, and I subtract 68.40, and my cash is going to be $51.60. Now, I saw several people that had this 3,420 in general debit. Why? Because we had done that before. We wrote over here accounts payable West Supply, but now we don't need to write the word accounts payable. We just write West Supply, and then we use the column accounts payable. So remember, if you had ever written before accounts payable, we don't write accounts payable. We use that accounts payable column. So Taylor, yours is not correct. Taylor? Now, on the 9th, paid cash on account to Quill Forest Products covering purchase invoice 182 for $4,380. No cash discount was offered. So basically, you know, it's like if I was working with Libby and Libby says, you're a great customer, but I don't care, I'm not giving you a discount, pay me all the money now. So I am going to do, put the date of the 19th. The name is going to go to Quill Forest Products, and again, I don't need to write accounts payable, but I cannot put it in the general column. I got to go all the way over to accounts payable, and I'm going to put in there $4,380, and how much do I pay them? The same amount, $4,380. So we have lots of different examples up there. I am going to guarantee this transaction is going to be done incorrectly. The 17th, people are going to put it in your general column. On the 11th, you're going to get confused and record it and think you need to put something in purchases discount, but a trade discount does not go in purchases discount. You record it at the price that you paid for it. Try on your own.